Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Titans Mentioned. Let's go! Where today we have a pretty big sandbox update coming for episode 2. We are done with episode 1. I know videos have been a little light on my end. That's because I've been in and out of the house quite a lot over the past 2-3 weeks. I basically haven't been home for longer than 3 days in a row, so I'm finally getting back into my content rhythm. But, you know, things are slow at the end of an episode or at the end of a season, right? We're kind of in this news cycle, and so that's what we're going to talk about today. Some pretty substantial buffs coming to Titans. I think Warlocks and Hunters are also getting a little something, but it's mainly focused on Titan. And I think it's some pretty interesting stuff. So let's get to it. First things first, though. Next Wednesday on the 25th, we're going to have another Dev Insight article. So I will be right here reading over the article. We'll talk about whatever they're going to talk about. So that'll be next Wednesday. We'll have a little reaction to that. Some small rewards changes coming in. Advanced, Expert, and Master Nightfalls. The drop chances for non-adept weapons has been increased in those difficulties for Platinum and Gold tier completions. Obviously, the best way to get adept weapons is to get Platinums on Grandmaster Nightfalls, but in case you're not capable of doing that, they made it easier to get non-adept Nightfall weapons in the easier categories. Also, Lost Sector rewards. World Loot Pool. The World Loot Pool is usually put into farm status in Lost Sectors the episode or the season after they debut. Bungie is changing that, so they are now farmable in the same season that they are added to the game. This is not something that I follow particularly closely, but they do have a chart right here of all the different weapons if you want to go grind them out. Again, like, you know, all those kind of calendars and like the Eververse calendar, which I don't even think exists anymore. I don't really follow that too closely, but like anything here, I mean, I think probably like Suspectum 4FR, Rossarago, I gave a very glowing review to. So there's a couple things here that I think are worth farming. Anyway, next we have the power band increasing. I can already hear people's eyes rolling into the back of their heads. Hold on. Bungie is increasing the power ceiling in the next episode, and I assume they're going to do it probably the episode after that. The reason they're doing this is because they've been very happy with how Fireteam Power has launched and how it has removed the power barrier that was previously preventing players of different engagement levels from playing with each other, right? That was the big thing, was they kind of took away the power grind because they just wanted people to be able to play with each other. And now that we have this thing, the people who are more active can simply just bring up the people who are not as active to their level or pretty close to it, and you can just play together. Me personally, I'm now okay with power going up in an episode because, as I've mentioned a couple times recently, my time on the game recently has plummeted. I have not really been playing a lot. I haven't been really raiding with my friends at all because of red borders. Like, as soon as we're done with getting red borders, we're just done playing the game, right? So for me, this is just like, oh, yay, I get to raid with my friends for like 3 or 4 weeks in a row to get, you know, to the max level. Hooray, I get to talk to my friends again. So for me, I'm like, cool, this is cool. But if you're like, oh my God, I don't want to power grind anymore, dude, then like, I get it. But I do think Fireteam Power probably has done a lot of good for people to be able to just play with their friends instantly without having to worry about too much grinding. So I'm okay with it. So let's get to the meat of the article. Titans mentioned. Let's go. We are getting some buffs for Titans. Warlocks and Hunters, you're also getting a little something. It's the first time that the combat team has kind of, you know, checked in with us. The last time was pre-Prismatic. So Prismatic has just kind of been doing its thing. And Titans, you know, we've had some discussions about the identity of Prismatic Titan or Titan in general. What's their place? You know, there's a lot of drama about the world first raid race and how it was like 3 Titans in the first 100 teams. I was on a Titan until the very end, until my team was like, let's just go, you know, 6 Hunters or whatever, 5, whatever we did. And so we've had some discussions about Titans and like what's up with them, because their Prismatic setup, they have one really, really, really strong build and then one also really strong, but not as strong build. And that's all they really have, right? They don't have that wiggle room that the other classes do, because they have 2 to 3 defensively minded aspects. And in a game where we continue to get stronger and stronger and stronger, those defensive measures become weaker and weaker and weaker in comparison to just being able to like, wave attack and then slam down and then big damage and then everything explodes. Or I can hold up a little dinky shield that absorbs a little bit of damage and then fling it back at an enemy and maybe it'll die. What are you going to take, right? I'm talking about Unbreakable. So Unbreakable is something that is getting a pretty notable buff. But there's something else that Bungie is going to be doing to Titans. We have a bunch of preamble here. The Titans are the front line, and they're supposed to be defensive and set your team up for success and blah, 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 except they have literally no tools to even do that, and Void Overshield actually kind of really sucks. So they're doing this. Titan Barricade now taunts enemies in front of the barricade, and it only happens when you're actually behind the barricade. You can't just like set one up and then, leave, which I think is really cool. I think this is super cool. Now, do I think we're like, necessarily going to be going into like the holy trinity of tank, healer, DPS type thing in Destiny? No, not necessarily. But this is a neat tool for the Titan to actually be able to do something to draw enemy fire to them, which gives Bungie a little more design room to do something cool with that, right? Whatever it might be. Maybe they design an exotic around it for Titans. It opens up the design space a little bit more for Bungie to be able to do cooler stuff. And it opens up the build potential space or the gameplay potential space for Titans in order to more strategically plop down their walls. Because I'm just kind of using them like as an extension of cover. I mean, I guess that's kind of what you're supposed to do. Or I'm using them as like a thing to block enemy fire so that I can go res someone on my team. But now we can like actually use a wall as some sort of a taunt mechanism, which I think that's really cool. This also applies to Unbreakable. It also applies to Sentinel Shield. And I think they said they're going to hopefully add it to Ward of Dawn in the future. And Ward of Dawn also has its own problems. It got that big change where I think you need to wear Helm of Saint 14 in order to get Weapons of Light now. And I haven't seen a bubble in I don't know how long in PvE. It's been forever. And I don't even know if this functionality added to Ward of Dawn is even going to do anything for it. But we'll see. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that like you plop a wall and then all enemies are just like, wall, must shoot it. As Bungie says, like Vex Wyvern might ignore you to go do something else, or a Legionary might continue to attack a player. It's more designed for your red bar enemies, your Dregs, your Acolytes, your Vandals, stuff like that. Lower tier enemies, maybe if you have like a yellow bar boss enemy, that's a Vandal or something. Sure, they might ignore it as well. Or champions, they might ignore it as well. It's for more basic enemies. And also, combatants are actually going to shoot at the barricade instead of the person behind the barricade. So now you can actually use the barricade as real cover. They're shooting at that. You can actually peek out the side and not feel like you're going to be insta-gipped. So, as a result, Towering Barricade, Rally Barricade, reduced non-boss combatant damage dealt to the barricade by 50%. This is the one that I'm excited. Increased splash damage reduction from combatants for players behind the barricade from 20 to 60%. There is nothing more infuriating than dropping a wall and then just seeing enemies shoot at the wall and the AoE splash damage just kills you anyway. Even if it like feels like it's hitting the wall or it's like hitting, one part of your shoe, something like that. It's the most infuriating thing, Titans, right? Am I right? It's so annoying. So this to me is like massive. Like I'm very excited about this change, right? This is what I'm looking for. Barricades now grant moderate damage resistance versus combatants during cast animation. Okay. Unbreakable. What are we doing about this thing? Because look, this shield, it's cool. It's cool in theory, right? You raise a shield, you absorb a bunch of damage, and then, but in lower tier content, You don't need it, right? You really don't need it. Enemies, like, you're lucky that an enemy will even hit you in lower tier content because their accuracy is so bad. So you don't even need that. And then in higher tier content, I mean, I don't know. I guess you are kind of face to face with enemies sometimes, but you're face to face with them because you have knockout and consecration, not because you have unbreakable on, right? So in higher tier content, you have to like break your build, at least on Prismatic, in order to use Unbreakable. And then if you're just playing a regular Void Titan, first of all, I'm sorry. But second of all, it just didn't feel that good. It just didn't. Damage blocked by Unbreakable now generates grenade energy. Love it. You can actually use it more than once every 4 minutes. Increased max duration the shield can be held. Love that. Forward movement speed now slows down briefly when the shield is shot. Okay. Reduced Unbreakable's throw attack damage versus players by 20%. Fine. Increased damage bleed through from players by 15%. Okay. Fully charged Unbreakable attacks will now one-shot barricades in PvP, except when the barricade is under effects of Harder Than Most Light. That's a very specific instance. Okay. Now we have Void Overshield. Void Overshield, how do I put this lightly? It sucks. It sucks so bad. It's bad. It's really not good. So Bungie is buffing it. Maximum effective HP is going from 90 to 150. Maybe gets a little more love. Maybe makes me actually want to consider taking it because right now, what do you take? You're going to take an Overshield over Restoration? I would take an Overshield, or I would take Amplify over an Overshield. I'm just not taking Overshields right now. So hopefully this does a little bit something because, yeah, especially with Titan, like there's so many things that I feel like you need to have an Overshield for in order to activate. So when I get an Overshield, I play even more passively because I don't want to lose the Overshield because then I lose all my special stuff that I have that triggers when I have an Overshield. So I like this change. This is a good change too. Next, what do we have? Scorch and Slam waves now shatter stasis crystals. I thought this was already supposed to be in the game. I remember Bungie saying something like this was supposed to already happen, or maybe I was just misremembering it and they said they were going to bring it in the future. I don't know, but this is cool. Diamond Lance, thrown or slam Diamond Lances will now shatter stasis crystals. Love that. Slamming a Diamond Lance will give you and nearby allies 2 stacks of frost armor. Also kind of like that. Change the weapon tray HUD to display how many seconds are remaining before the Diamond Lance disappears. Generally speaking, I mean, like, I'm happy that this change came in, but generally speaking, like, you could just look at the glowing, like, pulsing light on the Diamond Lance to kind of tell when it was going to disappear. But I'm not upset about just getting a regular old timer for this thing. Knockout melee kills now cancel health and shield stun, in addition to healing, allowing you to immediately start regenerating. This is a reversion of a previous nerf that had too much of a negative impact on PvE. I know there was a lot of discussion about this change. Gone. It's gone. Shiver Strike, probably one of the worst abilities in the game, now attaches a stasis explosive to the target on impact, which slows players and freezes combatants. I'm already locked in. Huh? I'm already locked in on this. Now refunds 80% melee energy on whiff, meaning you can actually use it maybe a little bit more for movement, but this is mainly because probably 4 out of 5 times whenever you go to use it, it whiffs. Like the hit reg on it feels bad, and so now you can actually use it more than once every 4 minutes in case you whiff. Increased energy recharge rate by 12.5%. Love that. Immediately after landing a Shiver Strike attack, the attacker's melee ability is now suppressed for 0.5 seconds. I'm guessing that's to sort of counteract any sort of Shiver Strike, boom, and then immediately punch again right after that, which, okay, fine. That's probably more of a PvP thing. Facet of Command, Echo of Domineering. Cooldown reduced from 11 to 4 seconds. Let me get you the exact wording on that. Freezing or suppressing a target reloads your equipped weapons and increases weapon stability, aim assist, and airborne effectiveness. Defeating frozen or suppressed targets creates a stasis shard or void breach. Pretty substantial. Finally, Titan Unpowered Melee. Increased damage versus players by 5%, PvE combatants by 20%, and increased stun multiplier. So like the odds that an enemy kind of like staggers back is now increased with Titan Unpowered Melee. I don't know if this is going to have any sort of implications for PvP. For PvP, I feel like the melees just kind of need to be equal. So I don't know if this necessarily moves the needle at all. Maybe in like some very fringe cases, you'll be able to kill someone versus not being able to kill them. This I don't necessarily mind. And, I'm not going to be too upset. Look, I'm not going to be too upset if you're going to give me some buffs. I'm really not. Now, this next part, I just kind of skimmed through a lot of the Titan stuff I kind of read early on so that I could have some actual thoughts on them. But a lot of this stuff here, I just saw like super buffed, super buffed, super buffed. And I was like, okay, Storm Trance increased damage resistance from 53 to 58. Chaos Reach increased damage resistance from 45 to 55 and fixed a couple of issues with Jolt and not going through Sentinel Shield. Nova Warp mentioned, let's go. PvE damage increased by 20%, cool. Damage resistance increased, cool. Now, any Nova Warp detonation applies volatile regardless of charge duration. I was pretty much always doing max charge detonations, so I don't know how much this is really going to affect me. I have been using, and before anyone's like, yo, yeah, Datto, you really using Nova Warp a lot? I'm using Nova Warp on my Touch of Malice Void Warlock setup, thank you very much. Hunter, Golden Gun is getting a boost against everything that isn't a boss, like a full boss. So, okay, fine. Spectral Blades. I hate using the same joke, but Spectral Blades mentioned, let's go. Increased PvE damage by 20%. Damage resistance also increased. I don't think that's going to save it in PvE. Nobody's using Spectral in PvE. It's just not happening. I mean, the other supers are just far superior. This is just, like, cool. Like, hooray, but I'd be surprised if this moves the needle at all. Titan, Glacial Quake. Howl of the Storm can now be used while Glacial Quake is active. Howl of the Storm has to be probably one of the most underwhelming aspects in the game. It's where you have to, you slide and you do your uppercut and it just gives you like a few stasis crystals. I just find it very underwhelming, but I mean, okay. Cool. Twilight Arsenal, thrown axe projectiles now more consistently tracked towards targets closer to the reticle. Love that. It was having some hit reg issues. I was having so many hit problems with Twilight Arsenal. If there was anything within like a 20-meter radius of me that the axe could like potentially see. Like there'll be like a boss right there and then there'd be like some weeds growing over here and it'll be like down here. So like that. Increased axe relic damage versus combatants by 23%. Wasn't expecting that, but I'll gladly take it. The damage is okay. I mean, it's free, right? You do 9 swings and then you do your big uppercut to get rid of it. I didn't think it was that bad, but again, I'm not going to say no to a buff, right? Thunder Crash, the worst super in the game, increased base detonation damage by 33%. Woo! Love that. Increased damage resistance, Fist of Havoc, 51 to 58%. Okay, changed how the light attack works under the hood to improve consistency in hitting targets. I still have problems with Fist of Havoc just going straight through an enemy, so love to see that. Slightly increased light attack, lunge range, and ability to target enemies vertically. Love that as well. That's more, for PvE anyway, more of a quality of life type thing as well. For Act 2 of Revenant, we're investigating increasing roaming super uptime so that they're more often available when you need them. Stay tuned for that. I mean, we've had some discussions, some very light discussions about roaming supers and how they just feel pointless now. Like, we've had this shift back over to one-off supers for big chunks of damage because our kits, our basic neutral game kits on so many different builds and so many different subclasses are basically equal to a roaming super. So it's like, why am I going to use a roaming super when I can just explode an entire room of enemies with a couple of button clicks, right? Wrapping things up, Lightning Surge on Warlock. The Warlock casting Lightning Surge has 50% damage resistance versus Titan Barricades during the lunge. Very specific thing. Casting Lightning Surge now also makes you amplified. Wow. Okay, that's it's more PvP focused kind of a thing. I tried doing a Lightning Surge build on Prismatic Warlock, and in mid to high tier content, I was very underwhelmed. I was very, very underwhelmed with Lightning Surge. I don't think this is going to change my whelmed factor on this at all. I'm still probably not going to use it. Yeah, I would like to see a little more PvE love, maybe the amplified, but I know we have some stuff with amplification in the artifact this episode, but are we going to have it in the next episode? We don't know yet. Okay, it seems more PvP oriented. Prismatic Hunter, the main thing, like their grenade is just a toughness, right? Their grenade is probably the weakest. Added projectile tracking and aim assist to increase consistency in hitting targets. You basically got to throw this thing like a sticky grenade, right? You got to just hit the target outright, because the amount of times that you can get enemies to stand in the exact spot that you need them to stand in for that long of a time with some sort of a trip mine lightning grenade type situation is like, forget it, right? So everyone's just trying to hit the sticky on it so it can just do its thing without having to worry about the positioning at all. So I like this. Threaded Spectre, increased detonation damage against PvE combatants by 33%. Okay. Swarm Grenade, this is more of a PvP situation. Now easier for players to shoot down, and they chain detonate to other submunitions when destroyed. I know Prismatic Hunter has been absolutely torturing PvP for the past little while. There were some nerfs that came through earlier, so this is just kind of an extension of those. And then Combination Blow. This is like the one nerf, I think, out of this whole article that's coming in. Combination Blow. Rescaled healing from a flat 80 HP per kill to 180, 60, 40 per kill based on stat count. Combination Blow, I thought, only goes up to 3. Maybe I guess when you don't have any stacks at all. No longer clears health and shield stun on kill. Remove the 1.5 second internal cooldown on healing, which I didn't even really realize this was a problem. I didn't think people were healing that quickly. Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is like a death blow for this ability at all. I think it's still an incredibly strong ability, but I am working on a build video as we speak about a Hunter melee build that does not use Combination Blow. You probably, if you're pretty in tune with the game, you probably are aware of it, but if you're not, I think it's pretty neat, and so hopefully that video will come out in the next week or so. What else we got? We got the Ace of Spades art show. So Bungie's putting on some 10th anniversary art shows. There was just one in LA. I think there's one in New York City. And then there's one in London, which myself and Danielle, I think, are going to be at. So I don't know if you still get tickets. They're like, whatever, but we'll be at that one, I think. I think we'll be at it. And you got your emblems for your emblem gremlins going to TwitchCon. I will not be at TwitchCon because it will be like my third weekend in a row getting on a plane, and I just did not want to do that to myself, so I'm sorry, TwitchCon people. It's like the first TwitchCon that I think I'm missing. More emblems, 10 years of Orbit music if you want that, and then do art, and okay. Pretty exciting stuff for Titans. Pretty exciting stuff. I love the barricade change. I love that we have some kind of like a taunt thing in the game now to actually draw enemy fire. Bungie has wanted Titans to be this frontline defensive unit for so long, but we've never had any real tools to direct enemy fire and direct the attention towards us. So I'm interested. I'm interested to see how it works out. Maybe, it creates a situation where there's too many enemies shooting me, because I feel like I already have that problem where whenever I'm in a group, like I'm playing with Jess and Danielle or something, it's like every enemy is looking at me. That could also be because I play like an idiot, but I'm interested to see where that goes. Again, not sure we're really seeing Holy Trinity type gameplay in Destiny. If Bungie were to do it, I think they would do it in the form of like a mechanic where it's like it's an item that you pick up, and it's like, oh, I've picked up the shield, so I got to hold up the shield so that all the enemies shoot at me, and then someone else has like a giant cannon that they shoot at all the enemies, and then, oh, the guy with the shield is taking damage, so I got to shoot him with the heal beam, or like whatever. That's how I think they would do it, unless they had like a huge change of heart, which I don't anticipate. But I mean, look, they're in a position right now where they got to keep things fresh, so maybe they're just like, hey, throw anything, see if it sticks. We'll see. I'll let you get out of here. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.